Today we're going to explore the concept of the cloud-based company and the impact that it's going to have on the cities that we live in. The story begins about 100 years ago, 1914, a time when New York City population was about 4.5 million people, and less than 40% of the American population lived within a major metropolitan center. Over the next 100 years, that percentage grew and grew and grew, to the time when today, over 80% of Americans live in a major urban metropolitan center. It's a crazy statistic. There's one evil culprit that has generated the reason for all of that urbanization, and that is the water cooler. The concept that people have to physically come together in a single workplace in order to collaborate and communicate with each other. This has driven all of the urbanization across America because people move to the cities where the jobs are. As a result, last year, over 10% of the total GDP in the US happened within the 45 square miles of New York City. Each quarter of last year, over 9 million square feet of new office space was leased. You do the math. At $45 per square foot average, that's $500 million a month in additional rental on just office space in order for people to be able to go down the hall and talk to George or speak to somebody in the cubicle next to them. What's amazing is that today, none of that is necessary anymore. There's a confluence of factors coming together between cheap video conferencing, the ubiquity of email, co-working spaces, cloud-based computing, and a renewed interest in lifestyle over work. And we put all those together into a correct environment for what I call the cloud-based company. Now, cloud-based computing has been around for a while. The idea of instead of paying to own and maintain a set of servers, you outsource it to a flexible third party. Well, the cloud-based company takes that concept and extends it to the entire company. Your finance department, your HR, your document storage, everything resides in the cloud. Now, just to be clear, we're talking about distributed workers, not remote workers. This is not about the main company residing in a single office and a couple of people working from home. This is about the entire company residing in the cloud. Everybody is on a distributed basis. Remote workers is quite common these days, happening more and more, but it introduces all kinds of interesting challenges. Problems around communication with the remote worker. The remote worker is being passed over for promotions and raises, right? The distributed model eliminates all that. That's why, for example, in my latest venture, we have over 1 million customers in 100 countries with 70 staff literally on 6 continents and no office anywhere. Everyone is virtual. Everyone is remote, and therefore everyone gets equal communication. So our Monday morning staff meetings tend to look a little bit like this. That's my CTO in the scuba mask who's working on some deep technology. Get it? Now, as a result of having it like this, it means that rather than going out and hiring the best people who we can find, who coincidentally live within 30 miles of some arbitrary office, we go out and we just hire the best people we can find wherever they may be. That may be by hiring the subject matter experts who may be in any part of the world, or it might mean putting our staff closest to our customers. As a result, we have customer support teams who are in Egypt, Mexico, Thailand, India, and Canada, right? We use cloud-based collaboration platforms to tie everybody together and synchronize it all. Things like Google Hangouts for the communication, Trello for our project management, GitHub for the source code, and Odesk for our team management. All these tools, which didn't exist 10 years ago, give us the freedom to have a distributed workforce where we get the best people and tie them together. But so what? What does it all mean? Well, this concept of cloud-based computing is going to have a major impact on companies, individuals, and the cities we live in. For the companies, it means that rather than investing in cubicles, servers, and cafeteria ladies, we're using those funds to subsidize our workers to work in local co-working spaces, such as Indie Grove here in Jersey City, where I work. Now, in case you think I'm joking about the cafeteria ladies, the Compass Group, which is a public listed company that manages the Google cafes and a lot of the corporate cafes around the world, made $11.5 billion, that's billion with a B, last year running corporate cafes. A ton of money is being spent on these elements. Rather than wasting our capital on these things, we've been able to have our platform built out in 15 languages with round-the-clock customer support with 1/3 the funding of the competition. For individuals, this means finally being able to choose where and how we wish to live without sacrificing our careers. Let's put it this way. For $1,000 a month in New York City, you can get a 450 square foot studio somewhere around 135th Street. That same money would get you a 3-bedroom house in Charlotte, North Carolina, or a villa with a chef in Bali. Which would you prefer, right? Starting to get the idea? For the primary cities, your Chicagos, San Franciscos, New Yorks of the world, what this means is, I believe there's going to be a horde of hipsters heading for the bridges. And in the secondary lifestyle cities, like your Jersey City, your Portlands, your Boulder, Colorados, there's an opportunity to have a net worker gain as people move in over be choosing a better lifestyle. This raises 3 fundamental questions. The first is, as a worker, if you can do your job from here, or even here, then why would you pay the $3.22 average per square foot cost of an apartment in New York City to do your work from here? As a company, why should you invest in the cubicles and the servers and the cafeterias as opposed to spending that money on research and development to better your products? Why indeed? And thirdly, if you happen to be the newly elected mayor of a major metropolitan city who, say, doesn't like large soda cups, how will you handle the coming erosion of people leaving the cities, the exodus? The answer to all 3 questions is what I would call lifestyle, where you place the value of the life over the style. Let's compare Detroit and Boulder, Colorado as an example. Here's some interesting analysis I did on the population of the metropolitan Detroit area over the last 150 years. It turns out that there's a massive correlation, with a slight lag, between the population of Detroit and the number of cars manufactured in America. What this means is people moved from the countryside into Detroit when there were jobs. And as those jobs vanished, so did the people. There was nothing keeping them there. Now, admittedly, Detroit has some nice areas, the Riverwalk, the Eastern Market, Belle Isle, but it also has the highest rate of violent crime in America. It's tied for first place as the murder rate capital of America. And the Sierra Club calls it the reason for a majority of the population across the Midwestern states. Now, not to be unfair, but let's compare that against Boulder, whose 97,000 people population have been voted the #1 happiest city in America, the #1 brainiest city in America, and the number one place to quote-unquote live well in America. They have an average median attached housing cost of $262,000, less than 1/3 of Manhattan's cost. People are flocking to Boulder not for the jobs, but for the lifestyle. Which brings us to the employers, second step. Why should you invest in those cafes and cubicles and those plans? Well, it would seem that you shouldn't. But the fact is, in order to hire employees in certain industries, you do need benefits and incentives, particularly in tight HR market in types of industries. There's two types of incentives that we look at. The first is coming to our office sucks slightly less, which is your fancy cafes with the sushi chefs, your branded gumball machines, your private shuttle buses that take you from your overpriced apartment in San Francisco, and of course, the infamous foosball table. Now, the reality is that if you happen to work in an industry that is required to bring people physically together because of resources or security concerns, where you have to do that, then you need to incentivize people. These are examples like pharmaceutical labs, or the NSA, or something even more top secret like, say, Google, right? Bringing these people together then is a requirement, and you need to incentivize them. The second kind of incentive then is what we choose to focus on, which is the rest of family life, or as I understand the kids call it these days, ROFL on Twitter and MyFace, right? This is the we'll pay to freeze your eggs today so that we can steal the best years of your life so that you can have a child when you're 57 where the only thing healthy is your 401k. But let's face it, people love working in their bunny slippers. Remote workers are 50% happier and 13% more productive than their office brethren. That's from an HBR study. Staples recently did a study that found that people who work at home are 76% more likely to be willing to spend extra time on their work and are more loyal to the companies that they work for as a result of working from home. 80% of them said that they have a better work-life balance. And that's before we even get to the cost savings. But just to be really clear, we're not talking about allowing a few of your employees to work from home, or even to say that the entire office can not come in for 2 days a week. No, I want to blow up the entire thing. Have everybody remote-based. Because let's be clear, cloud-based collaboration tools suck if people don't use them. And they won't have to use them if they can just walk down the hall to ask George why he published that bit of code last night that had 15 bugs in it. By everybody being remote, it puts everybody on the same footing, forcing them to use the collaboration platforms. Which brings us to the final stakeholder, you. Why would you choose to live and work in Chinatown instead of Chiang Mai? Well, it turns out there are some actually very good reasons, and none of them have to do with work. Let's say, for example, that you love opera, but this is a little bit more your style. Let's say you have kids. Well, you're naturally going to be concerned about the quality of the schools that are available for them to go to. And the fact is, there is no good online version of the original Foursquare to go along with the e-learning MOOCs that have been developed. If you're gay, you may want to reside in an urban community that is supportive and open to an LGBT lifestyle. 81% of gay Americans do. If you're single, you may not want to set the geo range on your Tinder app to 500 miles. So you may want a more happening urban center. And if you like to eat, the fact is you may prefer this to this. Some don't. You might. So are cities destined to crumble like Detroit? No, I don't believe so. There will always be a reason for some companies and individuals to prefer an urban city environment. Will that number be higher than the 80% that it is today? I don't think so. It comes back to this concept of placing life over style. If we focus on that, then for the big cities, they need to understand and prepare for the coming reduction in density from the business cores and how they're going to handle that. And revitalize boring financial districts with life over style options. There was a great quote this week from the president of the New York Downtown Association, talking about how Condé Nast just moved their 250,000 square foot headquarters from Midtown to the new World Trade Center. She said their moving in puts a stiletto in the heart of the concept that downtown is stodgy, gray, and boring. This move is inevitably going to bring trendy restaurants and bars and entertainment centers back to a downtown area that was previously basically dead. This is like planting trees to prevent the erosion that is going to happen. They need to fund cultural events and social facilities that might seem as a luxury at the moment, but that entice people to want to stay in the urban center. And for secondary sort of life over style cities, like Jersey City, like Boulder, Asheville, Steamboat Springs, they need to invest in broadband and Wi-Fi across the city to allow the digital nomads to work wherever they wish. They need to support co-working spaces and affordable daycare to make a family-friendly environment for careers within their local cities. And they need to build community events and public spaces to replace the social value of that dreaded water cooler. And if we do these things, then I believe the cloud-based company can be responsible for reversing the tide of urbanization that has happened over the last 100 years. Thank you very much.